everyone, my name is Kyler and I will be the host for today's podcast. Today is our very own Monash Business Club physical podcast. Today we have a special guest. He is the former president of MBC and currently the head of business development of a company called EBRIC. For the audience with us today, let's give him a round of applause for Javon.
Hi everyone, hi, Javon here. So yeah, it's nice to see new faces. I think it's been 4 years since I left Monash. So it's good to be back here.
Okay, yes. It's good to have you here today. You came here at like around 4 p.m. is it?
Yeah.
To
avoid the traffic.
And to having nostalgia of you being back here and assignments.
Yeah, in fact, I actually walked. I didn't take the direct route. I actually walked from the front, go to the library, go up to level 3, go to the quiet zone just to see how many nerds over there, and then coming back here. Yeah, I think it's good. It's good to be back here after so many years.
Anything changes from or no, still the same?
I would say it got prettier. Like this space, it was still like under construction back then, if I'm not mistaken, and then we only had the link. And a lot of the new, like the place beside Laptop Place was also new to us. It wasn't there back then. So I think, yeah, it got prettier and it's no longer like how people call the jungle anymore.
Okay, so give us a background about yourself when you were in Monash, like your life and maybe, what's the difference and perhaps how long have you been in MBC since you were the former president?
Yeah, so I joined Monash in 2016. Didn't want to do anything with clubs anymore, didn't want to join, so just wanted to be an average student. And fast forward 2017, I think that's where the president back then actually reached out to me to join as an event director. So I actually started my journey with MBC as an event director. Hosted a few events and whatnot. Then fast forward towards the second semester of 2017, I actually told myself I'm already doing one. Why not take on more? So I was the vice president for the Monash Frisbee Club. Not sure if they're still around. And I'm also the house captain for Open Acres for the year 2017. So it's been quite a roller coaster ride. And then fast forward 2018, I was the president for MBC. Then after that, stepped down and eventually graduated. So yeah, I guess it was pretty. It was a pretty hectic year 2 and year 3 for me.
So what did you major in back in when you were still in uni?
Yeah. So I studied business and commerce. So I majored in international business management and then banking and finance. So it's a double major. Yeah.
Okay. So share more about life after graduation, like how do you get a job, and perhaps introduce how did you know the company EBRIC?
Yeah, so I actually had I was in two companies before I actually joined EBRIC, and then honestly, upon after the final paper of the last semester, everyone was busy applying for jobs here and there, and that's where I thought I don't want to miss out, so I started applying, and eventually. This one thing I learned, when you start throwing in job applications and you think that on weekdays you finally get to sleep slightly longer, you get recruiters calling you at 9-10 a.m. while you're still half asleep, and you had to jump up and be hello. So I guess anyone, if you're in your final year, final sem, and you're trying to apply for a job, just know that while you are slacking on the weekdays, please be prepared that someone will just call you. And my first job was in a startup that does POS system, cloud POS. So your iPad ordering systems for your cafes and whatnot. So I started off as a business consultant, so meeting people on a day-to-day. And back then, when I was in uni, I didn't quite figure what I want, because being in international business, as an international business student and also a banking and finance student, right, you have a lot of options. You either go to banks or you either go to, if you really want to, maybe consulting firms. And so there's a lot of choices, and I didn't know what I really wanted. all my friends were like, oh, I'm going to the Big Fours, I'm going to Accenture, I'm going to here, and they asked me, hey Javon, where are you going? I don't know, man. So I guess when I landed in this job, it wasn't really what I thought I would be, but all I know is that I don't want to be facing the computer every day. I want to be up and about. So I landed out as sales. Then fast forward a year later, realized that sales, it gets a bit boring after that. There's not much you can learn from there. I mean, apart from the people skills. So once you have reached beyond that, right, like what's next for me? And that's where I hit the dilemma. Like us being double major students, you always think about, hey, if I can do well here, what about the other? That's where I thought, should I go for banking? Should I go into the bank? Should I go into the financial sector? And it took me probably a few weeks to just figure it out and decided like, hey, what's there to lose? So I actually went on to a finance role within the company back then. So I was doing more of the back-end job, doing finances, doing analyst role. And from there on, I guess that's where I landed in EBRIC. That's in 2021. So it's about almost 2 years now. Yeah.
So tell us more about EBRIC. Based on what I know, is about a blockchain system with ability to have fraction ownership of certain properties. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think the few words that you mentioned probably got a few of them over here confused already as to what a blockchain is, fractional ownership. So yeah, I think, okay, EBRIC is actually a asset tokenization platform. It's a blockchain platform actually. So we do a lot of things with tokenizing assets. And we decided that real estate is actually one of the first use cases that we do. So when you all think about blockchain, you always feel that, is it Bitcoin, is it crypto, is it a scam, is it safe? There's a lot of people into Bitcoin or that was into crypto and it crashed. But Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the crypto that you know about, crypto is just one small part of blockchain. And the real definition of blockchain is actually, it's a distributed ledger that's publicly available for anyone to view. So you talk about your transactions, for example, you want to send something to someone, for example, I want to send to him. All these transactions is being recorded on the chain, but people won't know who I am because it wouldn't show my name. It's just a group of numbers. So blockchain can be applied in many sectors, and real estate is just one of them. So if you can think about your medical records, let's say, if anyone's married here, your marriage certs as well, you can put it on the blockchain because it lives forever over there. And the best part is that on the blockchain, it's immutable, meaning you can't really erase it or you can't actually modify it. So it makes a lot of transactions more transparent and people get to know what's in and out. So pulling back to EBRIC actually take like a piece of real estate, you break it down into smaller pieces, say 100 pieces. So each piece actually represents part of the property itself. And for a lot of us over here, at least in this part of the region in Southeast Asia, investing in a property is not as easy. You have your 10% down payment, you have to look for a place, and then once you get the keys, you need to think about renovations and whatnot, and then hoping that someone would rent your unit and you get income out of it. So it's a hassle to go through so many months. So we thought about, why not we make things easier? With that same amount of 10% of down payment, you get to select, handpick a few different properties that you want to, look at their financial performance. If they are good, just buy into it. And from there on, you get a rental income based on how much the tenant is paying and how much your proportion is in buying that piece of property. So all the hassle that you have to go through as a landlord, you actually get to remove it entirely. So you just enjoy the passive income that comes along with it. So that's essentially what EBRIC is trying to do. And we call each of it bricks. Similar to the bricks that is used to build a house, piece by piece of it. Yeah.
So it's not like using cryptocurrency to invest in properties, is it?
So there are two separate things. With bricks, it's actually backed by the property itself. So unlike cryptocurrency where Bitcoin can suddenly go up by 10x today and drop by another 2x tomorrow, things like that, it's very volatile. But for the things that we are doing for real estate, that houses unless the house gets bombed or goes into earthquake, suddenly it's gone, then that's where it's hard to justify the value. But other than that, I think it's pretty much two separate things. But yes, you can actually use crypto to actually buy these property tokens.
Now, is that part of the plan for the future or currently it's implemented?
Right, so we put it as in the future. Currently, what we accept is, you can pay with fiat. It means your credit card, debit card. Our goal is actually to make people less alien towards the word blockchain, towards introducing like asset tokenization, because there's so much things that you can do. Yeah.
And did you know anything about blockchain prior to joining EBRIC?
Yes, I guess that's the question. No, I have no clue about blockchain, and for those business students or anyone that's studying business, right? If you don't know where you can go into, I'm telling you, you can actually go into a lot of places. A lot of things that we are studying today, be it your econometrics, your business analytics, your company is just giving you a head start to that particular industry, but it doesn't mean that you are going to be smarter than anyone else forever, because if someone is just more open than you to learn, they can pretty much pick up what you have studied in uni for the past 3 years or 4 years. So when I got to know blockchain, it was a very steep learning curve for me, because what business taught us was the acumen, how you want to see things, how you want to analyze things, how you want to look into things. But the technicalities, you still have to pick them up whichever company that you go to, be it a marketing agency, be it an auditing firm, be it a consulting firm. You still have to pick up that particular industry from the ground up. So for me, is that you have to learn it day by day, be it after work hours. You just have to scroll through it, get yourself exposed. What's blockchain about? If let's say you're in a marketing agency, what's CAC, what's the cost of acquiring customers, what's your click per minute, what's CPC? These are the things that probably in uni you don't get to learn as in depth. But it doesn't mean that it's not going to be useful, but you just have to figure it out as you go in the later stage of your life.
So I think since most of the audience are new to the blockchain, is there any risk associated with blockchain or person who wants to know about it, especially like for some consumers?
Right. So with blockchain, a lot of us, if you're not in the space, or you're currently in the space, there are risks, be it you're in blockchain, be it you're in any other industry. So the thing is that blockchain is a technology. Same like our 4G, our 5G, it's a technology. When it first introduced, there's bound to be a lot of skepticism over it. But as time goes, when people understand the technology better, they get exposed to it better, right? I would say, be it you're a user, be it you're thinking to have a career in blockchain, it's always good to try, because you'll never learn as much unless you try it. So when you have, I would still want to classify myself as the same age as you're, right? So when you're still young, don't worry about failing, don't worry about making the wrong decisions, because when you know the decision is wrong, that's where you learn out of it. If you want to get exposed, just go for it. I took a leap of faith of moving from one end to another, doing from something that's front-facing the customers to something very back-end, very computer-heavy, which I didn't like it, but I thought that, hey, let's give it a try. And at this day and age, I guess probably COVID also taught us that no job is ever secure, whether you're working for yourself as an employer or you're working for someone else as an employee. With an economic cycle, you're bound to face challenges. So it doesn't mean that you're in the Big Four today, you'll be secure of your job title, you get good increment for the next 5 to 10 years, because at one downturn, if you want to get fired, you still get fired. You want to get retrenched, you still get retrenched. Yeah.
So let's get to know more about EBRIC. Based on what I see in the LinkedIn profile, is it the headquarters, is it in Singapore, or is the startup origin in Malaysia?
Right, we have an office in Singapore, but regionally we are operating in Malaysia. So we have 2 offices, so sometimes we will move here and about, but the idea is actually to target more on Southeast Asia. So the concept here, if you go to our Instagram, if you actually read through the articles, you'll find out that whatever we are doing, right, is nothing new. It's been practiced over in the States, in the Western region for the past 4-5 years. So they are much more, I would say, the people there, it's all about adoption and all about people being receptive about it, whether they want to accept this technology or not. Yeah.
So why is the target Asian market? Is it based on the housing liquidity problem or something like that?
Yep, so that's one thing we found out in Asia. To afford a house, let's not talk too far. You just talk about Malaysia, our own. We see that there's so many overhang properties right now. So many people wanting to own a house, but there's still that gap there. And if you move yourself out a little bit and you look at our neighboring countries like Indonesia, Thailand, I think they're also facing some sort of property market downturn. And the most obvious one, I would say, is Hong Kong. Like, to own a house in Hong Kong, at least for the people at their age right now, let's say at their age of 20, 25, is practically impossible until the rest of their life because it's so expensive. So we thought that if, by fractionalizing or these properties, right, you're actually democratizing it, giving more access to more people to actually have a piece or a taste of investing in property. So it's not just, you can only invest in property if you are filthy rich or you have a lot of money. But right now, as easy as when you start working already, you have some income for savings, you can always allocate some of it to something that, a good kickstart for your investment. Because as you all know, property is somewhat a rather stable kind of investment after your FDs and whatnot.
So is that why is this company promoting fractional ownership, or is it more like timeshare?
It's a little bit different in time sharing. Fractional ownership, it's more of you actually have rights to part of a property. I would say if you want to argue, yes, it's to a certain extent time sharing, but fractional ownership, you actually get to see in and out what's going on. You actually, in the later stages, you actually get to have a say out of it. And what's more interesting is that with it being on a blockchain, you get to liquidate it. Let's say you don't want these tokens anymore. You want to sell it off somewhere else. There's always an outlet for you to sell. Similar to share market, you have your secondary marketplaces to actually have the typical bid and ask, sell items, get for cash and things like that. So it's making ownership much more flexible. You don't have to be tied. You get to have more. You get to see more things, have wider options to actually go for.
But based on the theory of fractional ownership, there is certain problem, right? Like, for example, if the investors holds majority of the properties, and the smaller investors would when they sell would earn lesser money or have lesser returns. Would that be a concern, or would that have like a limit of fraction for certain investors to have?
So at least on our platform, there's no limits as to how much you can earn because it's all binded in this one thing. By the way, it's also in blockchain. It's the smart contract. So in each contract, it's laid out like what are the do's and don'ts, what are the entitlement that is given. Because once the smart contract is it's done, it's put on the blockchain, it runs forever in that sense. Nobody can alter it. So if let's say this property, when it comes to fractional ownership, it doesn't mean that you own a smaller fraction, you get a smaller return, or you own a bigger fraction, you get a bigger return. I mean, in proportion, you actually earn in proportion to how much you own. If let's say this is worth $100 and you own 1% out of it, then you get $1 from it. But if you own 50% of it, then you get 50. So it's an equivalent, it's like in proportion to how much you own. And it wouldn't happen in a chance where, I'm the majority one, I get to have a bigger say, I get to have more control, or I want to do certain things about it. And for those who own less of it, you get no say at all. So it doesn't apply, but it's a case by case depending on how the smart contract is at the end of the day structured. Yeah, but in our case, we don't do that.
So another concern would be, how do you promote transparency to the consumer who some may feel insecure, or where their investment go, or especially the people who first time heard of blockchain, especially, or maybe your startup?
Yeah, so there are two parts. On the external side, we are working closely with regulators in terms of getting a license, getting it regulated. That's one. On the other hand, we are trying to, as a user, when you go onto the ecosystem, at least go onto our platform, right? You won't feel that, it's very blockchain based. That's number one. We try to make it as seamless as if you're buying something from Shopee or Lazada. And on the hindsight, apart from the information that we feed to you, we also tell you that, hey, this property that you're buying, there's a sales and purchase agreement that we put it out for you to see. There's also a tenancy agreement that we share it out for you to show you that it's actually tenanted. And for all the things that are minted on blockchain, you always have your Etherscan, always have in our case, you always have your snow trace. So you can actually see that these are indeed tokens that's already minted with this amount of supply, and these are the documents to supplement that. So, if you are going to be a normal home buyer, you go to Property Guru or you go to iProperty, you will search for one property and make a call with the agent, go over there. Chances are, whatever the agent tells you, maybe 80-90% of it is accurate, or they withhold somewhat at 10%. Maybe the owner is, or maybe, whenever there's someone there, information may not be accurate, but this is not the case for us, as we put it up, all these documents that the users or any investors or any token holders, they need to know. Yeah.
How popular is fractional ownership nowadays? Since I think only now a few of us just heard about it today, that's why you decide. Is it because of the rise of housing prices and etc.? And that's why people want to own a percentage instead of holding, because I think usually like Asians, they would rather own the whole house by themselves because they get to have the monetization of it.
Yeah, so fractional ownership started probably definitely before 2020, somewhere 2016, 2017. There are people that is already been doing it overseas. It's getting more and more popular, being that, more and more people are looking for different ways how you can utilize blockchain, especially right now, a lot of blockchains. Previously, we talked about how you want to invest on exchanges, how to buy Bitcoin, how to buy crypto. So eventually, when we pass, is that how can I use crypto to buy digital images, your NFTs? And for NFTs, people are trying to look for more and more use cases, how to invest, and eventually now, asset tokenization, I would say, is getting more and more attention. But it's still a very small fraction if you talk about the whole market cap of how big the industry is, solely because asset tokenization, when you deal with properties, we deal with, I would say, different types of investment vehicles or items that somewhat has some form of sovereign control. The regulation is going to be a key thing. There's going to be a barriers of entry to a lot of businesses that wants to do asset tokenization. So people have to pick and choose which environment, which kind of people that they want to target to. Hence, making it a much, I would say, much harder business to actually pursue, if you want to put it that way.
For cryptocurrency, is there any specific coin that you plan to implement? Like, for example, NFT, famous for using Ethereum, and the country El Salvador using Bitcoin right now. Or maybe you plan to create your own tokens as well?
Well, we have plans to create our own tokens, but it's mainly used for the platform. If you talk about cryptocurrency, I guess there's a little difference there, because for cryptocurrency, we welcome all types of cryptocurrency for the form of payments and whatnot. We accept that. The only difference is that what you're mentioning is more towards maybe which type of chain are we looking at to deploy and stuff like that. We are actually deployed on Avalanche, so it's I would say it's a different type of layer one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's similar like Ethereum and your Cardano and whatnot. Also, Avalanche is just another layer one. That's Ethereum virtual. Is an Ethereum virtual machine, is an EVM.
But how would you solve the volatility issue? Like, for example, suddenly the crypto just go down, go up.
Right. So So I guess this is where I clear out the confusion. Crypto, you will have that volatility going up and down. That's for sure. But for property tokens, or at least real estate tokens, right? The up and down is basically based on your reports, the survey, or even your property valuers. So let's say your house right now is worth 100,000. You have property valuers to come and value it. Next year, they'll tell you, oh, your property right now is currently worth about 103,000. So that's a 3% increase. And that is reflected directly on to the tokens that you hold. So it's not like crypto where suddenly you have a bull market and you see everything going up. Then suddenly if you have a bear market, you see everything going down. It's not so much a market sentiment, but it's more on backing by the property, which properties will go through the normal economic cycle up and down, but pretty much they won't change too far off.
So there's another company that's similar to having fractional ownership as well. I think it's called Fraction.co. It's also like not just properties, they offer to sell fraction of it, but also like other stuff like painting and stuff like that. So I think the difference is they didn't mention blockchain. So what, other than blockchain, what differences will it be from that company?
A lot of assets, actually blockchain is just a technology, like I first mentioned, right? So a lot of things can be done without blockchain, if you think about it. When you talk about investing properly in fractions, that's where your trust comes in. You have other companies that have been running for the past 5 years to 10 years, running without blockchain technology. So blockchain is just there to enable, to open up to a wider market, to gain more trust due to its transparency. So let's say you talk about a platform earlier that does paintings and whatnot. Maybe they are on blockchain, maybe they aren't. But regardless, if you have any physical item like a bottle over here, you can turn it into an NFT, put it on the blockchain. If you want to fractionalize it, let's say there's a value. Maybe this is a bottle that is touched by our dean here in Monash and people actually likes him a lot for some reason. You can also fractionalize it so that everyone can have a piece of it, and in the future, if let's say this bottle is being put out for events, any income that comes from it, you can always share with the people that own it. So it's not something new. You also heard of crowdfunding, funding societies. They are also gathering people, like a small part of investor in the business. So what we are doing here is just, we are not redefining the wheel, not reinventing the wheel, we are just putting blockchain to power it, and that's about it.
So there's this one question, I think it's from the audience. During the past, there's an issue with initial coin offering, where plenty of projects are just a shell with no value. Will this happen for EBRIC? How EBRIC ensures property projects are legitimate and issues with ICO will not happen again?
Right, so ICO is more for the project before it actually comes into reality, where it's still building, it's in the midst of, it's similar to your IPO in finance. Like, your company is doing well, you decided to raise some funds, and you issue shares. But in this case, ICO, you're issuing tokens. So whether or not the company is going to survive, that depends. But for us, we are not exactly issuing coins, not exactly issuing tokens that is backed by the company, but rather we are issuing tokens that is backed by the property itself. So it's two separate things. Each property will have its own designated tokens, which will run based on the valuation that we get from our property valuers annually, and that reflects the token price. It's not so much on whether the company is doing well or not. Because if let's say the company is not doing well, in the event the company really shuts down, touchwood, shuts down, we always have a lights out module, and because it's on the blockchain, right? You as the token holder, you are still entitled to the rights from the property itself. So that is, it's two separate things.
So currently the plan for EBRICS is to have fractional ownership for properties. In the future, do you have plans for other things as well?
Yeah, we do. We have a lot of exciting things upcoming. I mean, one now is residential. In the future, we're also looking at perhaps like commercials, your shopping malls, your retail outlets, and things like that. Where that's where most money is. Of course, you have your REITs already, but we make it a more interesting way for you to make your money's worth. Yeah.
So when will it be launched for all the consumers here today to try and test it out?
Right. So I mean, we are preparing the launch. Our launch is somewhere this month, end of this month. And so if let's say you want to know more about what we do, you can always follow our Instagram, or you can check out our Facebook. Yeah, you can always sign up, be one of the first few people to get to know the news there. And for us, it's not just about selling. It's not just about investing. It's not just about telling people how good fractional ownership is. But at the same time, we also have our own education portal where you get to learn more about this space, like all your questions about crypto, or questions about blockchain, or things that I've just mentioned earlier, right? You can always head on to the website to just have a more thought, look through, read, have your own opinion, and if let's say there's any questions, feel free to just send it over to us.
I think before moving on to the end, I would like to give the floor to the audience of anyone who has questions regarding, like blockchain, real estate, fractional ownership. Is there anyone to have a chance to interact with our special guest here? Anyone?
Well, you can always ask about how's life after Monash.
Okay, how's life during Monash for you?
How's life during Monash? I guess it was fun. If it wasn't for the club, I don't think I'd get to meet that many people. And honestly, I guess if there's one thing that I want you to remember today, right? Apart from what I've just spoken in the past, it's treat the university as like a playing ground, because that's where you get to experience all sorts of different things. And if things really go south, you can always say I'm sorry and do it better the next semester. And you get to experiment all different kinds of things from understanding what kind of people that you work with, whether this assignment mate is good or is bad or is just free riding, and also experiencing different things in life that you would want to outside of the university, but you can actually do it in Monash, in the university over here. Not asking you to do illegal stuff, of course. It's more like don't fixate yourself to just I want to get that WAM of 80 and above, 90 and above. I want to go into the dean's list or whatever it is, because face it, life is not so much about academics. There's a lot of life skills that you need to learn. And if you ask me, apart from your IQ being the standard one, right, EQ comes in at a much higher ranking after you start working, because you can have a super high EQ, but if you have zero EQ, good luck surviving in the outside world. So my take is that if you want to, just try as many things as you want, meet as many people, because these are the people that, like it or not, in the future you might cross paths because of the things that you're studying, and you might even be better friends after graduation. And for me, my life during Monash is that having such a hectic schedule and still having to cope with my studies, right? Trust me, I don't study as much. I don't like studying. I hate books. Okay, period. But what really helped us to go through is that the people that you meet with, right, like during your hell week, your assignment week, at the end maybe the few days before your last paper or your paper itself, the friends that you gather, you sit around. Like you have one person to cover the first two chapters, you have another to cover the third and fourth chapters, and then you share those information. Because some of us, we work best when someone teaches something. And from there, right, you will realize that you don't have to cram the whole book into your head, but you actually learn from one another, and you build that trust, you foster that trust within your friendship. So I guess, yeah, if you were to ask me, university is not just about hitting all those HDs and whatnot.
Okay, then I think lastly would be, is there anything would you like to say about Monash Business Club? Since you are the former president and you're a leader, go down the memory lane a bit.
Yeah, I think Monash Business Club was, heads off, it's one of the best clubs I've been. I don't know about MBC, I don't know about MUIG, but MBC is always, it forever has a place in my heart. MBC, it's, all of us thought that MBC is a lot about business, a lot about doing things and getting very corporate and whatnot. That's probably MBC. But business club is, we started off like wanting to foster friendship. We always come in here, I think you hear the most from all of us is that, you know, you want to join this family, you want to be part of us, we look after one another and things like that, and that's how we've been running it since the longest of time. It's happy to see that, you know, how much the club has grown over the years. We started off in 2008, and during 2017 when I first joined, we had thoughts to actually close down the club because it wasn't doing too well, the responses weren't too great, and thankfully with a bunch of people back then, we managed to pull everything up again until now it's surviving for almost 14 years already and going. So if for those who are not members yet, or you know, you're not part of MBC yet, I highly encourage you to join. Not so much for, you know, just looking good at a resume or having something to write on top of it, but it's all about interacting with the people. And I guess COVID has made us realize that human interaction is always what we are looking for, because you can get burnout easily if you're just staying at home alone, studying throughout the whole day with zero interactions with the outside world. So I'm glad that I went through the whole entire uni life without lockdowns, and I know it's tough for everyone here that, you know, either you actually went through the whole 2.5 years all at home, online, and yeah, probably some of you just back in campus this semester physically and finally getting to meet people, but it's all part of life. But while you have your time here, you know, enjoy and prepare to face yourself in the outside world as you graduate.
Thank you for the word of encouragement.